the torrential downpour greeting WNBA star Caitlin Clark over comments made during an interview at a Time magazine event have been both amusing and disturbing. Clark, the Indiana Fever star who was recently named Time magazine's Athlete of the Year, expressed her admiration and respect for Black women who have paved the way in female basketball and the importance of promoting diversity as well as diverse voices in the sport. She also expressed hope to utilize her platform to develop possibilities for others while acknowledging various racial situations in professional sports often play out in ways that benefit white athletes like herself. The WNBA has only been around 25 plus years. I know there's been so many amazing Black women that have been in this league, and continuing to uplift them I think is very important. That's something I'm very aware of, Clark said during the interview. Supporters lauded Clark for highlighting systemic inequities and for acknowledging the contributions of Black players who made it possible for athletes like her to flourish. But critics denounced her comments as performative, asking whether a Black player in a disproportionately white-dominated sport would feel pressured to make similar statements. Some even questioned if Clark's acknowledgement of privilege detracts from her own hard-earned success. Look at this. She's on the knee all but apologizing for being white and getting attention. Former Fox News personality Megyn Kelly wrote in an unhinged rant on social media. The self-flagellation. The OPLs pay attention to the Black players who are really the ones you want to celebrate. Condescending, fake, transparent, sad. Clay Travis, the founder of conservative sports site Outkick, reposted a video of Clark at the gala and shamed her for her comments. If Caitlin Clark insists on thanking people for the WNBA legacy she joined, why doesn't she thank the NBA players who have spent 25 years subsidizing the WNBA, a league that has still never made a single dollar in profit? Travis wrote in a series of tweets, "The WNBA's legacy as a league that has always been deeply connected to Black culture, and Clark places herself within a broader narrative, one where her success does not overshadow the contributions of those who came. The decision to exclude the most popular women's basketball player ever from these Olympic Games is rooted in misplaced, self-important arrogance from a collection of professionals who forgot or refused to accept they're a sales staff. That while they do the same job as the men, it's not the same. Please take all, but it's not fair arguments and dump them into the Seine." The decision to keep Clark back in America, rather than put her on the team in Paris, is playing out to be biggest blown layup in the history of women's basketball. The Olympics are in their second week, and Team USA's women's basketball team is rolling toward another gold medal in blowout games that are watched by family and friends of players. Nothing short of a Martian executing a triple flip from atop the Eiffel Tower will supplant Simone Biles and Noah Lyles in these games. But Team USA denied itself a chance to be a part of the fun by leaving Clark off the team. These Olympics could have been an Oppenheimer blast to women's basketball and continued the momentum it's created in the last 2 years. Instead, these Olympics are a dead period to the sport. As someone who worked for 5 years promoting women's basketball on the collegiate level, watching these Olympics without Clark is insulting to all of the people who have, and do, bang this drum. Even if Team USA wins gold by 185 points a game, they blew it. No one is talking about Team USA's women's basketball team because there is no Caitlin. The end. It would be one thing if Clark was some Bill Veeck-created clown, and her spot on a roster would embarrass a team. But Clark will likely be named the WNBA's Rookie of the Year, barely over Chicago's Angel Reese. If you care about this sport or wanted to watch Clark, point your frustration at Dawn Staley, Simone Augustus, Delisha Milton-Jones, Jennifer Rizzotti, and Bethany Donovan. They are the people who picked the players for Paris. You might know Staley, the current head coach at South Carolina. The rest you will know only if you're a follower of women's basketball. Staley told NBC's Mike Tirico before the start of these Olympics, "If we had to do it all over again, the way that she's playing, she would be in really high consideration of making the team because she is playing head and shoulders above a lot of people. Shooting the ball extremely well. I mean, she is an elite passer. She's just got a great basketball IQ, and she's a little more seasoned in the pro game than she was 2 months ago. That's regret. It's also a lame way to defend the dumb decision when the team was announced 2 months ago." Staley, whose South Carolina team defeated Clark's Iowa Hawkeyes in the NCAA title game this spring, has previously credited Clark as the single biggest reason why women's basketball has enjoyed this current growth spurt. Everyone on the selection committee failed to realize where they are, that they're not as important as they think, that their responsibility is to assemble a team that will continue America's absurd run of dominance in women's basketball, but in there is the task to sell a game that still needs selling. All of these new people watching women's basketball are tuning for the same reason a host of people who never cared about golf watched more than 20 years ago when Tiger Woods started his pro career. If a bunch of women's basketball coaches and players are upset or jealous of the attention Clark is receiving despite not having a long resume, get over it. And get over yourselves. This isn't about you. Golfers were smart enough to recognize that even if Tiger Woods won the tournament, they won too. NASCAR drivers felt the same way about Dale Jr. and Tony Stewart. In the early 80s, NBA players got over it when Magic Johnson and Larry Bird entered the league. This is about a sport that is only now out of the crawling phase. The people who made this decision fooled themselves into think they're running on their own when they're not there yet. Team USA will win another gold medal in women's basketball, an accomplishment that deserves to be celebrated. And during the celebration, they may notice that they blew the layup. Caitlin Clark is the star of the WNBA. But a former coach has highlighted her tendency to chirp at referees as a negative of her game. The 22-year-old has consistently delivered in her career, in both collegiate and top-flight basketball, setting records wherever she goes. For instance, Clark was the WNBA's assist leader last season, and she's Iowa Hawkeyes' all-time top scorer, as well as becoming the top scorer across the NCAA in both the men and women's leagues. With all these records and success also comes criticism, however, as the point guard has been singled out for her persistent issues with refereeing. Current Hawkeyes head coach Jan Jensen appeared on Chris Maylander's YouTube channel to discuss the WNBA. And naturally, Clark came up in conversation. Jansen praised Clark first as she said, "Inarguably, whether you like her or not, she's spun it all on its head." However, she didn't hold back when pointing out Clark's apparent only flaw, adding, "She played with that flair, and I had plenty of conversations if she chirped to the refs too much." This isn't the first time Clark has been called out for her relationship with the referees, as former Hawkeyes coach Lisa Bluder pointed out the obvious during a 92-73 win over Nebraska in college. Bluder said at the time, My message is to let me do the talking to the officials. That's my job. I just want to do my job. Speaking on what her message to the ex-Iowa number 22 was, Jensen added, "That's not passionate. Don't be using that as an excuse. That was bad sportsmanship." Clark has explained her reasoning for this behavior before. She said, "I have a great relationship with a lot of the officials, but I'm feisty and competitive, and they know that. I think they do a great job. We're not perfect, but sometimes I disagree with them." As well as enjoying a dig at the referees from time to time, Clark also racked up 6 technical fouls during her debut season with Indiana Fever, one away from being suspended for a game. Therefore, this may be an issue that her current coach, Stephanie White, may need to bring to her attention before her second season in the WNBA. Perhaps the biggest discussion point of this WNBA offseason has been Washington. Mystics co-owner Sheila Johnson's take about believing Indiana Fever superstar Caitlin Clark should not have been placed on the Time magazine cover alone, after Clark won Time Athlete of the Year when speaking with CNN Sports on December 13th. Countless people within the women's basketball community have called out Johnson for these tone-deaf remarks. And the most recent person to offer their opinion about it is Indiana Fever GM Amber Cox, who was interviewed on a December 20th episode of In Case You Missed It with Christina Williams. How do you respond to Johnson's comments? And do you think the Time Award should have been given to the entire WNBA rather than Caitlin Clark individually? Williams asked Cox. "I think Caitlin Clark deserves that award," Cox said. "Through the years, there have been incredible players. Sports to me is generational. We've been at this not very long, less than 30 years, comparatively, when you're talking about other leagues. What Caitlin Clark did, because so many eyeballs were on her, she's a huge multiplier effect of the league's current growth," Cox continued. "Because she has so many fans. People are moving games because so many people wanted to see her play." Cox then mentioned the impact of players like Angel Reese and Cameron Brink along with Clark before adding, "The identity and how much brand recognition these players now have in college absolutely helped the WNBA. But we've never seen anything like Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark scored 16 points, but the favorite to win Rookie of the Year couldn't lead her team to a win, as the Indiana Fever